IVM.
Some call him James Bond traveling in local trains. He fights against hooliganism and harassment that women face. He's like a real-life superhero who uses his spy goggles Rajnikant style. He's helping rail officials make train travel safer for women mile to mile. He's an avenger who's waged a war against railway rowdies, though he doesn't have an official rank. Our guest for today is someone with admiration, a rail safety activist, Dipesh Tank. Hello and welcome back to Beyond Cliche. This is your host Hindostal, and today in the studio we have a very special guest. He's someone that has decided to raise his voice against eve-teasing, hooliganism, catcalling that is so common in local trains. He has a very interesting journey where he uses these special goggles to spy and nab these, hooligans or molesters in local trains. So we're going to have that conversation. But before we get there, I would like to share a campaign that I have on gender stereotyping. A lot of work that I do is in this space. I run a campaign called #TurnOffTheStereo. As a change maker, I want to create more and more awareness on this subject. And I also have a petition on change.org where I'm asking a leading diaper company to include the father's image on the diaper packaging. With COVID, women are experiencing a lot of pressures, parenting pressures. And I think men are equally participating in this journey, but not getting enough credit for it. And for the men that are not joining this, are not really joining this entire sharing the load piece, they probably need to, and that's why the messaging is so important. So if you resonate with my cause, please go to www.change.org/PapaPampers2. Now, coming back to the activists that we have, the guests that we have on our show today, let's jump right in to find out more about Dipesh Tank.
Have you ever wondered how successful people do their thing? How do they navigate the challenges they often face? Are you wondering about the future of restaurants, film, education, technology, and everything else in between? Hi, I'm Gauri Devidayal, best known for being one of the brains behind The Table, an award-winning restaurant in Bombay. One thing my life as a restaurateur has given me is the opportunity to meet with some truly inspiring people, most often just by chatting with strangers at the community table. And that's what this podcast is about. It's about learning the new dimensions of business and understanding how different people swim this sea. It's an opportunity for me to pick their brains and ask them all the questions on my mind, whether it's about learning from their past experiences or talking about future trends. Through their journeys, stories, and insights, I hope you too, like me, will come away inspired and energized. So come, join me every Wednesday with your favorite drink, because this round is on me.
Hi, Dipesh. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you very much. I hope everybody is safe and fine and healthy.
Yes, I'm good. I'm good. I hope you're safe too. And are you missing local trains?
Oh, no, actually, because I don't know how many people want to get outside their house, decked up, dressed up really well, and go and fight with people. So I don't. But right. I don't know who else is going to do. Okay, so. But I don't feel guilty of not trying enough. That's my answer. Because for me, it is important to stand up every time there is injustice happening in every possible capacity. Yes, I may not be able to do that in every place. With the times in India, which are going right now, are very, very different and rare. But out of 50, at least I should be able to stand up, 10 times, 20 times, as much as I can, the kind of bandwidth that I have or mental bandwidth that I have. So
totally understandable. Times are tough right now. Dipesh, you've sort of taken on a very, very unique cause, okay? And in your own words, in one of your TED Talks, you mentioned that usually, जब एक आदमी छेड़ता है, तो दूसरे क्यों चुप बैठ जाते हैं? It's not very normal for a lot of men to stand up and stop another man who's harassing a woman. Contrary to, let's say, अगर चोरी हो जाती है तो सब चोर के पीछे भागना शुरू कर देते हैं. But in this scenario, जब एक औरत को छेड़ा जाता है, normally men don't speak up, right? But you've taken on this cause where you're saying that I'm going to stand up and stop every man that's doing it. I want to make sure that at least the train space is safer for women. So where does this passion come from? And I know that your mother's been one of your biggest inspirations while you were growing up. So are there any influences drawn from there that you picked up this cause so passionately?
Right. So first of all, it's really sad that men are seen in a way where they don't stand up if it's not their family member or somebody they know. And it's really sad. But however, I want to also say that that there are some men and they do stand up, but yes, largely they don't because they feel like it's not something that they want to get into. Unfortunately, it is also the inability of men and women at times also who think that because they don't want to get into this, they find reasons to say things like, it's the internal matter, it's not something that we should get into. It's the fear, it's the incompetentness of acting on something which is not right, and because they want to wash off their hands of their basic responsibility towards this society in a larger sense, they come up with reasons like, it's not our fight and we should not fight this. And I disagree with that because I feel that if the same platform, the same bus or same road, if my girlfriend, my wife or my sister or my somebody I know was there, then would I have been quiet? And the answer is no. And if I ask that question to myself, the answer is no. And I'm sure I can write it down on a piece of paper 100%, 100%. The answer is no every time every man or a woman asks this question to themselves. But we choose to ignore that side of ours. We choose to ignore that question's answer because we are so scared and we are so worried about consequences in life, But if the same thing was there with your family member, then you would have not been quiet. So that's the only thing it bothers me, and I'm just trying to follow my conscious and my inner self, which does not allow me to stay quiet as much as I can.
But what I'm trying to understand is, where is this passion coming from? Did you have any influences growing up to see?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Like I've seen my mom working like really hard since the time I was a child, school going, and I've never seen anybody who's such a great multitasker. And I mean it, not just because she's my mom, but she just does like 50 things at a time and with a lot of efficiency and without cribbing. So for me, that's a great learning, and I need to adapt some of that side in myself. But yes, she started her own business of catering and providing ladies, women waitresses in the weddings and parties and other places where, that the job was that to convince the parents, saying that, you get a pretty good amount of money, you come here, work here, earn for yourself, make your own money. And she was an entrepreneur by herself. And, I remember she used to get up at 4 a.m. and she used to like dress, she used to cook food for all of us, get us ready for the school, drop us to the school, come back, start working on the whole day, go to different places, manage people. And I'm sure things happens, you're working, you're an independent woman who's trying to work in such a heavy male dominated society. And I used to always think about it, that how this whole thing must be going on. And maybe there were instances where I could not have understood as a child. But when I grew up and when I started traveling and I started realizing the state of what women's rights is and how women are treated in this country and around the world, per se, I realized that I could connect. I'm sure, my mother would have gone through things, not specifically with her, but even with other fellow colleagues of hers who were working in the same business. So that is something which bothered me. And I'm like, my mother does not do that business anymore. But if there is somebody else doing that kind of hard work, and as a son or as a brother, as a friend, I would like to support in every possible way to them. And my contribution is to, it's a promise that I gave to Nirbhaya when the Nirbhaya can't happen.
So that was a major turning point for you emotionally.
That's right. And that is the time, in 2012, if I'm not wrong, the Nirbhaya incident happened, and it shook me as a man, and I really felt ashamed to be calling myself as a man because someone from our race has done such a heinous, such terrible, and there is no word to condemn this enough, to condemn such an act of uh, uh, overpowering and aggression. And so it shook me, and I'm like, I want to channelize this anger. I'm sure a lot of people went on streets to protest and do things, and people didn't want to party and stuff like that. But I'm like, let me channelize this particular thing in a way where what can I do which is more constructive? And it's not easy because I'm also brought up in a certain conditioned environment since my childhood.
Yeah.
And I'm not ashamed to be saying that because that's what it's been taught to us all the time. Women are weak and men are stronger all the time.
And it is super hard to break it because literally आपके दिमाग में उसको डाला जाता है right from the time, even before you're born, the pink and blue is given at a baby shower. So we're just so born and bred with that mentality that it's really hard to sort of break that.
Right. So for me, that was also an issue because I couldn't understand what is the right thing to do or how much should I get into somebody else's life or incidents or any of that. But I learned it my way. I promise that I will not let any harasser, whether it's husband, wife, husband, brother, father, or anybody, if there's something happening, I will stand up, even if the guy is twice the size of me. I will stand up and I will say, at least politely, that "Aap jo kar rahe ho, galat kar rahe ho." If not fight. That's where I will choose my battle in a way, but I will go and tell him. The problem is that the problem is not that the fact that there are too many bad men in this world. The problem is that there are way too many men who are quiet. And that's where the whole problem is, because अगर एक लड़का किसी लड़की को छेड़ रहा है ट्रेन में, उस train compartment के अंदर, in that train compartment there are like 200 men,
right,
and probably a woman or two women sitting there. None of them wants to stand up and tell that guy like, hey, you know what, you have to behave, you have to learn to respect other women around you. You can't just go and start harassing them, whether it's physically, verbally, or
so because no one's stopping them, they think it is okay, it is normal to do it. कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता.
Absolutely, they get rushed. They feel that it's a power trip, It's like
so my question was that, Dipesh, what is the psychology of somebody doing this? And as a woman, I've experienced it too. Not only in trains, you're walking down the street and there is a car full of boys just whistling at you. Like, why? What is the thrill out of this? Why? What is the psyche of somebody doing this?
So I'll be very honest. I'm not a psychologist, or I'm not a person who understands that kind of behavior. But whatever little I read and understood about the whole thing, it is pure conditioning in my mind. And I may be totally wrong, and I apologize.
What kind of conditioning?
The conditioning is from the childhood of every fact, every time you are proving that women are weaker by your statements like, "Tu kya ladki hai kya ro raha hai?" Are you a woman? To a boy, saying, "Why are you crying like a woman?" Because crying is a sign of weakness, and hence women cry a lot, hence they are weak.
मर्द को दर्द नहीं होता.
Yeah.
And I always wonder, मर्द को दर्द क्यों नहीं होता भैया? वो भी इंसान है. It's kind of funny. You're right. So we're sort of trying to portray this as a weaker part of the society or a weaker sex, and that's what we're doing.
That's right. And you see, you go to a boy's birthday party and a girl's birthday party. What kind of gifts that you would buy for a boy? Like cars and superheroes and all the masculine stuff, which looks like powerful and like you're the hero and you can go and change the world. But if it's a girl, then you'll buy a frock for her, pink color with pink flowers on it, a Barbie doll, or
Yeah,
just think
that's
about
so true.
anything that you
That is so true. That is so true. So, in fact, one of my campaigns was asking the makers of this cartoon called Chhota Bheem to sort of, also give this girl Chutki, which is a typical gender stereotypical character with two chotis. Her mother's trying to tell her don't climb trees, which she's got makeup on, and her biggest agenda is to please Bean. Like, what are we trying to portray here? Why don't we have enough cartoon characters of women that are heroes too? So you're so right. There's a disparity. So you're saying the psyche is कि ये औरत जो है, she's probably weaker, and this is a power trip. I can do this.
And because women are weaker, hence they should not be doing things which are in comparison with man. And when a patriarchal conditioned man sees that, he suddenly feels intimidated by her appearance. Is what I feel. And then this whole thing of to put them down by looking at them, laughing at them, whistling at them, touching them inappropriately at times, sexually, and much more. Like, you talk about, and I'm sorry, I will also say that a lot has been added by the movies, Bollywood movies, songs.
Absolutely. There's this song, Khali Pili Rokne Ka Nahi, Tera Picha Karu To Tokne Ka Nahi. It's openly normalizing stalking. I have a friend who's doing so much work in this space, and it's sad that we're actually normalizing this kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And movies like Kabir Singh, like, you're normalizing assault on women, sexual, telling a woman at a tip of a knife, saying to remove her clothes. And you talk about any movie, like first she doesn't like the man, then the man keeps approaching her, stalking her, trying to convince her. And then suddenly she'll be like, no, I love you now. Right. Let's get married. And that is the inspiration. That is the inspiration. And that is how men suddenly want to try it, but life is not a movie. Like, it's been scripted.
Kab tak cheekhegi, chillayegi, ek din hasina maan jayegi. This is
exactly. Or even like ladki dekhi muh se siti baje hath se tali. Like ऐसे गानों की वजह से जो harassment है वो और बढ़ता है. And my answer to that question is this: when what is the fun that they get, and this is the kind of fun they get. They feel that this is thrill. They feel that it's okay to outrage some other person's modesty who's around you because you think that will that same guy do that to a cop or another man, or for that same guy, if there is a homosexual or a transgender who's attracted towards that same guy who's harassing a woman, the whole thing will change completely. Like,
absolutely,
and then that man will suddenly become like the whole this whole what is right, and stand up on like this is wrong. How can this eunuch or this homosexual touch me inappropriately?
Right. What an interesting conversation.
I'm not saying.
Yeah. We're having a great time talking about the different kind of cliches that we have in the society. You're in this virtual studio with me and Dipesh Tank, the man who's actually decided to wage a war against railway rowdies. We're going to explore his journey right after this short break, only on Beyond Cliche.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Intel, for coming back to us. We love our sponsors. If you'd like to be one of them, do reach out. So really, really cool week on the network this week, right? Started off with a bang. Abhijit Ganguly was on Cyrus Says. Funny comedian. I think you guys will enjoy that. We had Dimant Parekh on Advertising is Dead. Dimant's the founder of Better India. Govindraj Athiraj is also on Uncle Please Sit this week. That's a really fascinating show which they talk about fake news. On the Habit Coach, there was a crossover event with Aditi Surana from Absolutely Right. I think you definitely enjoyed that. And last but not least, definitely a show I'd love you all to check out. We have a new show called This Round Is On Me. It's hosted by Gauri Devi Dayal. If you remember, Gauri and I worked on a show together called The Kolaba Cartel a while ago. Fun show. If you haven't checked that out, do check that out. But this is a show where she's talking to a lot of different people in the food space. Her first guest is Harsh Mariwala, legend in his own time. I think you'll really, really enjoy that show. With that, let me get you back to your show.
Hello and welcome back to Beyond Cliche. This is your host and host Almas, and today in this virtual studio, I have a man who is actually a rail safety activist. He's actually helping police officials, nab hooligans. He wants to make train travel safer for women. And before this break, we were talking about different cliches around why men are conditioned to be a certain way and why women are a certain way. And this whole idea of I am more powerful, therefore eve-teasing and molestation are okay. I mean, it gives people a power thrill to eve-tease women. So now we want to sort of explore with Dipesh this whole journey that he took on. So, Dipesh, you saw some young men leaning out of a train and making offensive gestures at women outside Malad station. Can you tell us exactly what happened? What did you do? And how did this whole journey of this common man standing up and saying, I'm going to buy these nice goggles and be this man, figuring out who are the harassers on the train? How did it start? Tell me the journey.
Work, I think more than my work, the goggles are quite famous.
Yeah, you should be like the ambassador for it, I feel.
Yeah, I was thinking to write them an email, this company, which is a US based, and saying that like you have no idea how much good work has happened, and by far the only pair of goggles and the glasses which has done a really phenomenal work, and this should be like kept safe somewhere, and you should hire me.
I'm sure you'll have a lot of people endorsing you. So tell us, where did this journey start from? That Malad Station incident.
That's right. In 2013, I was traveling. My job was to go to Govandi, which is about 2 hours from here in in Harbour Line, and I was waiting for the train. And yes, there are instances where men try and do things which are like not right. But I'm born and brought up in Mumbai, Bombay, and I've seen like what is that threshold. Like you can do things. You can walk and sing on the road, and just for yourself, it's fine. But there are things that you cannot, and that does not permit. The city is known for a lot of safety for women and other people. Like there is no problem. Like Mumbai is known for the best of the safety measures for people. But that doesn't mean that you will just go and outrage women's modesty. So I was standing, and I got into the train, and I usually stand on the footboard. Inside the train, but then this time I had to stand outside because there was so much rush, and I saw these men who were like in the compartment ahead of my compartment. They were like, one of them had like a long rose, and he was trying to hit at every woman who was standing on the platform and trying to scare them as if he's going to touch them and stuff like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is not the Mumbai that I was born and brought up in and grown, and I don't want this Mumbai to turn like this. And that is the thing which bothered me. I immediately tried Googling from the train because the train network is not good because of the overhead wires. So I tried to Google it, and I found there was a number 9833331111 GRP helpline number, which is no more active right now. There's another number in place. So I tried calling that number. They picked up, and I was like, sir, there is this guy who there are more than 1-2 men who are doing this. Can you do something? He's saying, where's the next stop? So by then I already reached Bandra, which is like I was in the fast train. So I told them, can you send someone at Dadar? So I had to get down at Bandra and go to Govandi by changing my train. But I thought, let me just go behind these guys. So I went ahead, and then I tried to nab some of the guys, and I faced a lot of problems in understanding where would the police stand. How would he know where I am, or how would? So I tried to explain him I'm in the second first-class compartment from the church gate and all of that. But
it is complicated, right? You don't know where which platform will it land, which compartment, where are you exactly, and there's just a couple of minutes or seconds before the train, takes off.
That's right. So I tried to catch them, but they ran away. And it bothered me, and I was like, this is not right. And I was just sitting, and I called my friend Yogesh Sadhwani. He's one of the journalists in one of the daily newspapers in Mumbai. And Yogesh is a very dear friend. He's like my friend, mentor. And he told me, Dipesh, do one thing. I'm just caught up right now. Call this another guy. His name is Virat Singh. So I called up Virat. Virat is a good friend now, and he's like a brother. I called up Virat, and I don't know Virat then, and he was the transport journalist. And I told him, Virat, this is a situation. Can you put me onto some policemen or some officer who can help me out catching these guys? So he spoke to somebody at Borivali police station, railway police station. Unfortunately or fortunately, railway is divided into 2 police forces. One is the RPF, which is Reserved Police Force, which is a central government under central government, and the other is state police, which is which falls into the IPC mandate. So I went to this gentleman who was an senior police inspector of Borivali police station, railway police station. And I told him, sir, this is a problem, and can you help me? He said, fine, I'll give you 1 constable. You go tomorrow, just identify with him who are these men, and then we'll catch them. We'll catch them at our time. So I'm like, fine, that's a great idea. So I stood there for 2 hours watching, trying to find that group of men. And to my shock, I found out there were like at least 10 to 15 such groups which were doing exactly all the worst things. And I'm like, wait a minute, now I think we have opened up like the Pandora's box here.
Right.
Now.
And you know what? That box was always there. It's just that the lid was now open and in front of you completely.
Yeah. It was there in front of everybody, but people chose to ignore it.
Absolutely.
And that is where the problem is. People want to be quiet. So I'm like, sir, ye dekhiye, yahan pe to usse zyada log hai, and I'm talking about something which is lesser intense than what these guys are doing. And this cop said like, but this is normal. This happens all the time.
And then why are you not doing anything about it? Like, what should we do about it?
So then I asked him, is it right? He's saying, no, this is not right. But how do you catch them? It's a running train.
Point.
Because the train, when the train is entering in the station, they don't do this. They don't harass women or any other passenger. When the train is moving outside the station, police are not going to be that organized to do an organized catching, you know. Somebody at station A, train leaving from A to B, there will be a team which will be there. So that's what we decided this, like, you know, because I went back to that gentleman and I told him, sir, this is a much larger problem. He's saying, but you need RPF also in this. RPF is another security agency for managing railway. So I went to the RPF. RPF said, no, we have to also involve GRP. I went to GRP. This whole RPF kept happening for 6 months. And in the meantime, just to create more awareness, I did a small survey at Malad station with like some 500 women signing it up. Questions were asked like, do you feel threatened standing at the platform? Yes, no, maybe. Are you, how many times in a week do you get harassed? And the results were quite shocking. Like, you know, there were more than 82% of women who feel insecure standing at the platform. And that's quite outrageous because after 60, after 70 years of our independence, if this is the state of people, then I'm sorry, there's something not right that we are doing. And we need to look at this whole thing at a new perspective. So
yeah, I so totally agree. You know, safety is a big concern. So even in the night, when the general compartment is not that full, I will still not enter it. I would rather enter the ladies' compartment, even if there's enough space for me to sit or move around. Just because I do dread these things. So you're absolutely right. Yeah.
So for me, I did the survey. It was sent to then Prime Minister, President, railway heads.
You actually did that. You sent it out to everyone.
National Commission Women Rights, State Commission Women Rights, tagged UN Women, everybody. Nobody answered except the State Commission Women Rights. This lady, she drafted a letter of the State Commission Women Rights and sent it to the Standing Committee of Railways, saying that this is what the state of affair is in Maharashtra with the railways. So would you like to please take cognizance of this and act on it quickly? But unfortunately, nothing happened. But in the meantime, my pursuit towards these policemen was always on, meeting the senior police officers, trying to organize a patrol or an act which will stop this or control this nuisance. On, I think, December 3rd or 4th, we organized a trap of about 40 policemen and women who were divided into 2 stations. One of them were in Malad, where we were identifying men who were harassing women at Malad station, and we were catching them at the next station in Goregaon. The thing is that we could easily catch them the next day, but we had to hit their mindset. This fear of like, I will get caught at the next station if I do something wrong. Right. That psychological thing is what we wanted to catch, and we wanted to make sure that they get worried because of that. And that is exactly the reason why people will stop doing this. Because if they know that I may get caught at the next station and my chances are like more than 50%, then I think it can be a huge deterrent.
Absolutely.
So that kept happening. And we got like about 30, 35 people. And it was quite relief. Everybody was like really happy. All the cops got like pat on their back from the seniors and all of that. And then everything was the same. Then I kept going back to them and they were like, no, let's do it later. Now there is festival time, there is this time, etc., etc., etc. but then I kept doing it. Like, thankfully I was supported by female friends who were part of the survey, Vaishali, Meera, and Shweta, and and of course Virat was always there. So this whole thing kept happening. In the meantime, I kept patrolling in the train. As in, I'm like, if cops don't come, let me just do this on my own. Why should I be just wait for them to do this?
And so you initially started with a camera in your hand, with a moving train, trying to manage your bag and everything.
Yeah. But that is when I bought my first, most expensive phone. I joke about it by saying that I sold my kidney for that. And that phone was there in my hand. There is a bag in my hand I have to hold, and there is train. Because I used to catch people, and the police used to, obviously they used to catch them. The problem here is that to make a case, there has to be a female complainant.
Right.
I, as a man, can't complain on a female's behalf saying that I saw him harassing a woman. Hence, you can file an FIR. No, that can't happen under Section 354 and any of that. The female complainant has to be there. And if that is the case, I don't think most of the women whose harasser I have caught even know that the harasser was caught. That is the most funniest part I feel sometimes, because they are at the platform. They don't even know that उनको किसी ने छेड़ा है, वो पकड़ा गया अगले platform पे मेरी वजह से ऐसा. So what they do is that they catch them into Section 1110, which is Nuisance Ka Act, and they prosecute them. And obviously, sometimes if they look like somebody who's not very notorious, then obviously cops have their own ways to make things fine, which could be not necessarily correct as per the law. But so that happens. But there are times where a man or a boy didn't look like a harasser. which is again conditioning, like
which is such a stereotype. I mean, harasser कोई भी हो सकता है. You can't really judge a book by the cover.
मुझे एक दो बार कॉर्नर किया गया कह के कि आप कैसे डिसाइड करोगे कि किसने हरास किया, आपके पास कोई प्रूफ है क्या, पुलिस ने बोला.
तो आपने जाके सीधा एक गॉगल्स उठा के ले आए and you said here is the proof, now I'm going to move around with the proof.
तभी मैंने I started recording on the phone. But the phone recording it became very high risk. So much that I'm like, I don't want to die. Like, there were at least 3-4 times I almost missed. I must have missed that pole by a half inch. Easily, I could feel that air. But thankfully, it didn't, nothing happened. But then I was researching on internet and trying to find if I can find some cameras or any of that, which is on the cap, or if I can install something, which is a little bit discreet and covert. In physical appearance. I found this company in US called Pivot Head, and there's a very good friend of mine, Bhavin Shah. He lives in DC. So I told him, brother, can you find out about this? And I used to earn about 25,000 rupees then as a salary. So he's saying, Dipesh, this is costing about this amount. And so I'm like, fine, man. Like, can I pay you for that? So I paid him, and at that time it was costing me about 24,500 rupees. That was the cost of that.
Oh, wow.
But I'm like, this was really needed, because, it would have made my life a lot easier, because I wouldn't stop not catching these guys. So the only way was to save myself is to pay that money.
Right. And that's how you sort of became this unofficial spy, doing the right thing. And that's why I call you an avenger. And that's how your journey started. And then you went along and you've been able to help, people, the police force with this. And you also have a lot of volunteers. Dipesh, this obviously is not a sole journey, right? You definitely need more people helping you, participating in this. So how can someone listening to this show help you with this cause? I'm sure once COVID is out and the trains are back.
Yeah. It's a most, this question, I honestly don't have a right answer to this. My objective of doing this is not that I don't enjoy doing this. I'll be very honest. It's not something that I get some kind of rush. I just feel so helpless every time this happens. And I'm like, who am I? Like, wait a minute, who am I to decide, to catch somebody or not? And, is this the right way? I don't think so. Like, catching somebody and just fighting with them to stop something is the right way, honestly. I wish there was a better way where I would sit with that person and talk to that person and say, hey, you know what, don't do this. You're a good man, you're a good guy, but don't do this. But unfortunately, I have to stop them. It's like a child who doesn't know that if he doesn't, if he eats mud which is there on the floor, his mother is going to come and like pat him on the back, and which would hurt him, and say that is a deterrent for him. And I'm just using that as a deterrent. I'm not the mother here, but I'm just trying to give like an example here to make people understand that I don't know how else I will stop that. Like if I have two options, कि इसके साथ बैठो 10 साल बैठ के इसको समझाओ, इसको behavior change करो. No, I can't do that. But if I just hold him and I'm like, I'm going to put you to the law, and if you resist and try to run away, I'm going to catch you. In that process, you're going to hit me, and I will return it back to you as much as I don't want to. So that process, nobody likes that. Like, my shirt gets dirty. I mean, you can imagine everything that can happen. You get beaten up at times, of course.
I think that could also be one of the reasons why a lot of women don't complain. I'm just thinking out loud, I mean, as a woman, if I've been in those shoes, sometimes there's this fear of what if there is someone attacking me just because I raise my voice. Maybe that's one of the reasons why people also stay quiet.
Yeah, but I feel that premise is just, again, one of the reasons in my mind. I strongly feel that somebody has to fight, right? I mean,
absolutely.
I see there is no difference in the life of a woman or me in that case. I'm doing it on their behalf. I don't see why they should not stand up. I mean, some way this revolution has to start. And as much as I want to fight it within my community, I also want to say to all the women listening that if something like that happens, don't back off. Check your mental health, whether you can deal with fighting this. Make sure you don't give it an easy getaway to that guy, at least. And azadi mushkil thi aur hamesha rahegi. Freedom was never easy. So if you don't fight for your rights and your race, there's somebody else who's always going to come and suppress you. So hence it's important to stand up and say that I will not tolerate this behavior of yours towards me or any of my race or my community, and I will stand up against this. Even if it means to go and just say that what you're doing is wrong. That's all.
And what would you like to what would you like to say to the men? Some men may have just done it out of a power through, like you rightly said, आप किसी book को judge नहीं कर सकते, right? You cannot say this person is a stalker or not. Like I have experienced somebody whistling at me, a guy in a Mercedes Benz, So we're talking about all sections of men doing this. So what is the message to a man that's doing this and to a man that's watching this?
Yeah. My thing is, my answer to them is like, it's really shameful on our part to even forget about doing this act or even to watch this act and to stay quiet. I think there's nobody so helpless and so unfortunate person who's quiet about this in my mind. Okay. I would just make them remind that you also have a mother, sister, daughter, and they will go out on the street. You don't want a man like you around her. You don't want a man like you around her who just watches your daughter getting molested, harassed, teased, and is quiet. Think about it. If you're the father, or if you're not married, but if you get married and you have your own children or your wife, do you want a man like you around her? Is the question.
I had read this somewhere that look at yourselves in the mirror. If you don't wish your daughter to be married to him, change yourself. And that's just so deep and powerful, and that's the message that you are sending out. Again, I just want to leave a disclaimer here. There are a lot of men that are, like you rightly said, there are a lot of men that are standing up too, and it is not just about the women that are getting harassed. There are all sorts of genders that are getting harassed, and we need to stand up wherever we see injustice. So what a brilliant conversation it was with you, Dipesh. Thank you so much. You're doing some amazing work. And मैं दुआ करती हूँ कि आपकी गाड़ी चलती रहे, but गाड़ी में harassment कम हो जाए. So
I hope. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me. This is Almas. How do we find you on social media, Dipesh? If somebody wants to reach out to you, what's your Insta handle?
Thank you very much, Almas. And I just want to say, before I say how to find me, I just want to say that often people ask me about the fact that, do you love your country? And the answer is yes. And it's a very natural, subconscious answer.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, I may be totally wrong. Majority of the people don't understand loving your country.
Yeah.
They think loving your country is wearing a badge or a national flag on 15th of August and 26th of Jan and saying Bharat Mata Ki Jai. At the same time, not worried about the fact that there are so many women who are the same daughters of that Bharat Mata getting harassed and troubled around you. And you think patriotism is about abusing a country or a community or somebody outside this country. That's not patriotism. Patriotism is about loving your country, about picking up the problems of your country and trying to fix them, and not about abusing somebody. A great country is when there are people who love and respect each other. They are not biased based on their gender, caste, religion, or creed. A great society will turn into a great country. A country without people is no country. A country with people, good people, is a good country. So please, let's understand, redefine and really understand the meaning of patriotism. So you can reach out to me on Instagram, Dipesh Tank, Facebook, Dipesh Tank, and Twitter, Dipesh Tank. And I'll be happy to talk to you guys if anybody has any questions or if anybody has any interesting ideas, suggestions, and if there is any unique solution to this particular issue. I would love to talk to you guys. So please reach out to me. And thank you very much for this opportunity. And I'm really glad that I got this opportunity to come and speak to you on this beautiful show of yours.
Thank you, Dipesh. The honor is totally mine. You can pretty much find me everywhere. This is for the listeners on the show. I am on Instagram, Almas_1111. I'm also on Facebook with the same name. You can also find me on Twitter at Almasvarani11. Please don't forget to sign my petition if you believe that the narrative needs to change. With COVID, a lot of women are putting in the extra effort and the extra hours of work. We need more men to join hands. And the men that are already joining hands, they need to also be credited. So this leading diaper company that needs to come forward and make sure that they include the father's image on the diaper packaging. Please do sign my petition on www.change.org/PapaPampers2. This is Almas signing off on Beyond Cliche. I'll see you again next week with another guest, somebody who's moved beyond cliche. Till then, stay safe, take care, bye-bye.
Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, Don Bradman, and now Cyrus Brocha. Okay, probably not in the right company. I mean, Don Bradman is Australian. But it's called Cyrus Says, a wonderful show about everything. Find the show on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
How many times have you motivated yourself to improve your sleep, or lose weight, or be more productive? How many times have you failed? Hi, my name is Ashton Doctor. Tune into my show, The Habit Coach Podcast, where we focus on creating small, tiny habits to improve your life instead of those big, impossible tasks. So make listening to me a habit every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com or on your favorite podcasting app.